RI プレゼンツ
Sea People Mountain People Chapter 2 Encounter with Mythology. Previous overview. The story I heard from Kunnecup was the first time I had heard it. But since she had been doing the same thing as us since the morning, when did she have a chance to hear from her mother about the Wajin? Kunnecup was also surprised, and as far as I know, there was no word about danger in what I heard in the morning. Or maybe Elle just didn't notice. I'm also worried about Kunnecup, but I'm more worried about the story of Wajin. I don't think all of Wajin are dangerous, but if their mothers are worried, there must be a reason. So I told Kunnecup that I should discuss the matter with your mother, including the recent incident in the village of Yaso, and she agreed, yes. However, while I was talking to Kunnecup, Kunnecup and Dolphin were looking at me all the time, and I was curious about their gazes. Even though I know they can't hear my voice, I get nervous when they stare at me. However, no one should be able to see me. And when our talk was over, Kunnecup said, "Look," as if waiting for it, and she jumped into the sea. While we were stunned by the sudden turn of events, a dolphin jumped out of the surface. Then, Kunnecup, who was riding on the dolphin's back, jumped up from the dolphin's back and posed with her arms and legs open. Wow! When I was surprised, Kunnecup laughed and said, "I knew Kun loves animals, but Tan and Kun are really good friends," and she waved at Kunnecup. As Kunnecup came out of the sea and came back to us, "Please be friends with Tanu," she said with a smile. We then returned to Kodan and Kunnecup looked for her mother. Then she found her mother knitting something with several women, which at first glance looked like cloth. In addition to red and green, patterns were drawn on the fabric in colors such as white and black, and several people weaved the yarn into the cloth fabric. The process of weaving the yarn by the women was quick and well coordinated. Their work was so brilliant that she forgot to talk to her mother. In the end, Kunnecup sat diagonally behind her mother and watched the scene until she finished knitting. When they finished knitting, her mother turned around and asked Kunnecup with a smile, "What's wrong?" So when she replied to her mother, "I want you to teach me how to knit," she replied, "I'll teach you next time." The mother said so and patted Kunnecup on the head. She went on to say, "I want you to listen to me later," and her mother looked looked at Tokupchup's face for a moment before saying, "Okay. I'll talk about it for when I get home," her said and smiled gently. Upon hearing her mother's reply, Tokupchup stood up and went home. When she entered the house, she saw Kunnecup weaving bamboo with her grandmother. She told Kunnecup, "I'll ask Mom about the dolphins," and sat down next to her sister and started knitting. Then Kunnecup stared bin at us when Tokupchup asked, "What's wrong?" She replied, "Nothing." Her looked a little angry but started knitting again. Maybe she was trying to talk to me. Her angry face is also cute. While thinking about, I looked at their knitting, and when I saw that her grandmother was skillful and a slightly larger basket was nearing completion. With the help of her grandmother, Kunnecup dexterously weaves bamboo into oval shapes to make small pouch-shaped containers. I looked down, thinking that everyone was dexterous, and saw that Tokupchup had just started weaving bamboo with a few bamboo between her legs. Wow, I'm not trying hard enough. A little reflection. After observing the knitting for a while, I suddenly heard a man's angry cry from outside, and a little later a child's crying. Wondering what was going on, we hurriedly stood up and hurried out of the house in the direction of the voice. Then there were several men at the entrance of Kodan, and a woman was standing in front of them. A child was clinging to the woman, and the atmosphere was very grim. When we arrived, the mothers of Tokupchups also gathered shortly after. If I look closely, I can see that the men were the men we met in Yaso village, each with a spear-like stick in their hands, and there was also that nasty man. As everyone was standing in fear, Tokupchup mother stepped in front of everyone and spoke to the men in Japanese, "What errands?" Today's story ends. The continuation of the story will be updated tomorrow. Please look forward to. If you like, please subscribe to the channel. See you again.